Oh, damn, there we go. Sup, ladies and gentlemen, Ackle on here, of course, welcome back to each and every one of you. How you guys doing? We had patch day. Well, I say patch day, it's been patch day for a while now, actually, but the story just launched, you know? The actual reason why I play the game just went live. So, I have to admit, I think the campaign was good. It was very, very good, actually. It was very good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Anyways, Digitmark, how you doing? Traxy, how you doing? Kimmy, how you doing? Nixty, how you doing? Traxy, how you doing, fam? I hope you guys are all doing well. Frozen Solid, Epic Thulu, Ducky, Holy, how you guys doing? Welcome back. Sifax, how you doing? Marco, how you doing? We're going to be talking about all of that and more, right? We're going to be talking about the short story. We kind of have to because there's some stuff in the short story that sort of ties into the Hunting the Harbinger questline. So we're going to have to talk about that as well. Whoa. I'll tell you guys this much. You broke your collarbone? How the hell did you manage that? I'm going to take my headphones off because reasons. No, I've just been wearing it all day, so... Holy crap, Cerberus, did you just gift 50 memberships? 5-0. Ladies and gentlemen, can I get some hearts in chat? That is disgusting, mate. That is absolutely disgusting. How dare you? How dare you, sir? Ladies and gentlemen, hearts in chat. Oh, shit, I'm rich now? Hookers tonight, boy. How you guys doing? Anyways, I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. What was I saying before I got so rudely interrupted with people giving me money? I can't remember. What were we talking about? It's been a while. Did you? Hey, I still appreciate that. Brian? Who the hell's Brian? I mean, we got 50 gifted subs given out. So, you know, Cerberus literally went and just gave everyone a gifted membership. So, it's really cool. But alright, so, I think, personally, from my perspective, the story is heating up in a way that we've never really had in the lead up to an expansion. And you can already see the impact that, how do I explain this? Let me get my bearings. Hold up. 50 gifted subs throws me off a little bit. I appreciate that. Stefan, how you doing, bro? Bahamut, how you doing? Okay, let's talk. The story is blowing me away at this point. I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't think we've ever had anything like this, and Blizzard's new approach is really starting to show. And it's the first time they've ever done something like this. So remember, the next patch that we're getting is also going to be part of the prelude. Right? So this was the prelude to the next expansion. That almost never happened in World of Warcraft. You know, we never really got a story before we got the 0.0 patch, and then you got a little bit of a story that would sort of, you know, lead into the next expansion for like a month. You would screw around with it, and that would sort of be the end of it. Whereas you can see that there is a lot more direction now in the story than ever before. You know, there's an actual direction. You can see Blizzard knows where they want to go, and they know exactly what they need to do in order to set it up. And what I specifically like is that they didn't treat the Harbinger as if everyone just automatically had to know who the Harbinger was. I liked that. And the reason for it is, it again shows Blizzard's commitment to fixing the leveling experience for new players. If you do the Dark Art questline, we all know, starting the Dark Art questline, you know it's Xal'atath here, right? Xal'atath is the Harbinger. We kind of knew it since the first time we saw the cinematic. But the way Blizzard does it, for a new player that doesn't know anything about Battle for Azeroth, probably never even heard of Xal'atath in Legion, for a new player, they get to see it for the first time, right? And they get to figure out alongside the other NPCs who this harbinger actually is, which I think is just brilliant. From a storytelling perspective, from a new player perspective, I thought that was really, really well done. Overall, the questline is pretty much what you would expect a World of Warcraft questline to be, right? I still wish that we would get more story-heavy questlines rather than gameplay-heavy questlines, but I understand I'm in a minority there, so, you know, I'm not going to push on that. It will just be something that I will always say. But I thought it was really well done. I thought the pacing was really good. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the delayed release, though. Like, that kind of... I wonder if I like it. Maybe I do like it, because it's sort of like all of the dungeon guys and the raid guys, they got their, you know, their treat, their little lollipop, and then by the time they're sort of used to it and they sort of know what's going on, then the story comes out, and it's almost like there's another sort of, you know, another fun thing to experience. And then, as we already know, in the very near future, on the 16th, Mist of Pandaria Remix comes out. So the staggered release almost wins you time. It's like Blizzard is playing for time, because players will only start to feel, quote-unquote, there's nothing new after the 16th, even though 10.27 already launched at that point, 3-4 weeks earlier? So, I kind of like it. I have to admit, I kind of like it. It's like, as soon as you get a little bit bored, something new comes around, and it's like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun. Let's jump into that. So yeah, from a gameplay perspective, I have no problem with that. That's also the only discussion we're going to be having about gameplay, because, well, as you know, I don't really follow the gameplay all that much. Sifix with the 10 USD. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Are you familiar with the Wheel of Time, with the reveal Arator and his dragon tattoos? I think taking a long look at Rand al'Thor would be something you should do. I think they're trying to give us a hint. I am familiar with the Wheel of Time, but only insofar as I've watched the TV series, which I know for Wheel of Time fans is like, what the hell? That's the worst thing you could ever do. But for me, it's fun. All right, I enjoyed it because I haven't read the books yet. I'm trying to get my hands on the full series, but my local bookstore doesn't have it yet, so I'm waiting for them to order it so that I can actually buy all of the Wheel of Time books, because I love the story. I think the story is phenomenal. I didn't like the TV series, just to be clear. Well, actually, I'm lying. What I loved about the TV series was not the acting. I thought the acting was mid as fuck. It wasn't really the characters. A lot of the characters really annoyed me to no end in that story. But what I absolutely adored was the lore, the world building, the way the world was set up. I love that. Like, that got me into starting to watch videos about the Wheel of Time on YouTube, because I was just blown away. I was like, what the hell is this fantasy world? Like, this is so cool. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be reading the books, because I'm really looking forward to it. Like, seriously looking forward to it. Cerberus with the 50 Australian dollars. Really appreciate that, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But I'm still waiting for the next episode of Coffee with Akko, but eat your cake and have it too. The next episode with Coffee with Akko is now basically just the Twitch streams. You know? Because I discuss pretty much anything and everything over on Twitch. So you're more than welcome to just pop in. Yeah, and then just hang out. But I will probably, you know, I'll be doing a couple of more things for Patreon in the very near future. Prophesized one that has to. So here's my thing. If we're gonna be talking about Arator, and I mean, you guys got me into this. $10 will get me talking about everything. I'm a slut for that. Okay, so let's talk about Arator. Child of Light and Shadow. Like, how can that not be? You know, it just kind of jumps out at you the second you see that, right? The second you see the part where he shows her the dragon tattoos, and it's specifically a light and a shadow one. And Alleria kind of likes it, right? Because it's a little bit... Let me just backtrack a little bit. What I absolutely adored about that scene is kind of highlighted the differences between Alleria and Turalyon. Turalyon is the staunch, stoic warrior of the light, and you could probably imagine that he is very much against tattoos and jewelry and all that shit. And then you have Alleria that's a little bit more of a rebel, although it should be mentioned that every single one of the Windrunner sisters is a bit of a rebel. Every single one of the Windrunner sisters said, you know what, to hell with tradition and marrying a fellow elf. We'll marry humans, why not? Or at least we'll fall in love with humans. So the Windrunner sisters are kind of like a blight on the Windrunner family, I guess you could say. Like the black sheep, but all three of them are black sheep. So it was kind of nice, right, to see her enjoy that side of Arator. But then it feels so on the nose. And before people go, but Akko, he wasn't born from light and shadow, because when he was conceived, Alleria was obviously not yet part of the shadow. Be careful of reading something from the perspective of literal light and shadow versus symbolic. In my opinion, it is far more symbolic, right? That because let's go back to what that whisper actually says. Holy shit, Cerberus with another 10 gifted subs. Are you crazy, bro? I really appreciate that. Nixty, also, thank you so much for joining the membership, or giving me a YouTube membership. I really appreciate that. You guys are giving me far too much money. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to deal with being rich. Yeah, Cerberus is out of his mind today, but I still appreciate that. Thank you, sir. What was I saying again? Oh, yeah. No? Oh, yes. I remember now. So, the exact whisper, or the prophecy rather, is that the child of light, right, will bring balance to the world, right? That's not the exact wording of the whisper, of the prophecy, but the light believes that the child of light and shadow will basically provide victory. Now, this is not the prophecy, this is what the light believes. The child of light and shadow will provide victory to whomever captures him or to whomever he serves. Because remember, from the side of the light, balance is the light winning. Right? If the light wins, everything is as it should be within the world. So that's why the light tried to do that with Illidan. If you guys remember when the light, against Illidan's will, didn't even ask him to sign a consent form or anything, just straight in there, do whatever you want, and then Illidan went, I am my scars, fucking eye blast out of this world, right? That scene, the light wanted Illidan because they believe that Illidan is the child of light and shadow, and I believe the light is the one that fell for the prophecy in terms of taking it far too literal. For the light, Illidan has to be that child because Illidan follows the Fel, and if you think about it, Fel is the mergence of light and void, where the light and the void fought hardest or fiercest. That's where the Fel pockets were created. So from the side of the light, Illidan has to be the child of light and shadow because he's part of the Fel. So it just makes sense to them. Arator, I'll tell you guys why I think, and this is not too much lore-based, this is more just if I was a writer. If I was a writer for World of Warcraft, and I wanted to use Arator as the child of light and shadow, introducing him in the short story that leads into the War Within is probably the best time to introduce him. Because prior to this, players knew very little about Arator, players had very little to do with Arator. Now you have an entire expansion where Arator can be introduced and we can sort of maybe do things with Arator, maybe go to help Arator. But this is also where we get to a bit of sad news. Are you guys ready for a little bit of sadness? And also some of you may very much disagree with me here. We need them back. Too many weak leaders. Wow. Oh, I think things are about to heat up, my friend. I think Illidan is coming back, but I think there's we have seen nothing yet. We have seen nothing yet. So, for those of you that don't want to be angry with me, stick your fingers in your ears now, because I believe that Alleria, Turalyon, and Arator is going to be one of the saddest moments in the coming saga. So, right now, everything in the story, and I do mean everything in the story, points to Alleria completely and utterly falling to the void. 100%. We're not even talking about anything else about Alleria, just the fact that she will fundamentally fall to the void. Allow me to explain, right? So while you're inside Talgador, is it called Talgador? What's that rift called? It is Talgador, right? Telegris, sorry. Telegris Rift. While you're inside Telegris Rift, go talk to Locust Walker, because he actually has a couple of really cool and really interesting lines. So he discusses in these lines how difficult it is to reject the void. Now listen to what he says here. Let's discuss maintaining your sanity. The void will do everything it can to shatter your will. You see the void as an enemy. It sees you the same way. For now. Now, that was very interesting to me. The for now bit was like, wait. I think I know why. I think the reason the void sees us as enemies right now is because to the void, we are allied with the Titans and with the light. So from the perspective of the void, right now, we are their enemies. But that may change. That little for now line, keep an eye on that, because that may actually change things quite a bit. I'll put it on the screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at here, okay? Its very nature is hostile to order, life, and sanity. You must dive deep into its shadows, accept its many truths. You cannot reject it. You must accept it. Only then will every ounce of power be yours to command. Embrace this wisdom, and your mind will yet be your own. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you remember back to 1,000 Years of War, Locust Walker says to Alleria, he can teach her how to resist the void's whispers for a time. Not forever. He makes it very clear to her. If she goes down this path, she will eventually succumb to the whispers of the void. No one can use the power of the void indefinitely. At some point you falter. At some point you have a bit of a weak moment, or a bit of maybe like an off day. And in that day, the void's whispers breaks free. And once it breaks free, you really can't put it back in the bottle. And we saw this with Nalfarian. I can almost guarantee you this is how the void powers Nalfarian eventually succumbed to came to Nalfarian. We know that Nalfarian was, he loved trying new things, right? So we know that Nalfarian is a very curious dragon. More importantly, Nalfarian was pretty much consistently looking for weapons. Anything that he could use as a way to power himself and to make himself stronger, because remember, his sacred charge was the protection of the other aspect. So while the other aspects were busy, either dealing with life, or dealing with the dream, or dealing with the magic ley lines, or dealing with the time ways, Nalfarian's main goal, his main job, was to protect the other dragonflight so that they can do their thing. And that means that he was constantly looking for ways to make himself more powerful. One of the ways was him sort of discovering new forms of magic, new types of power. And I believe that void power was one of those that he discovered. And he thought, I think legitimately, that he could control it. That there was a way for him to control what the Void was doing. And you saw what happened. It wasn't just hubris. It was in a moment where Nalfarian realized that he's probably dead. Razageth has just shown up. He's just lost control of his army. What is he to do now? And that's when he finally gives in and unleashes the Void's power. And once you do that, it's kind of over, right? Game over. Thanks for playing. You've now opened the way for the Void. And it's very similar to, I don't know if you guys remember the Four Horsemen short story. How many of you remember the Four Horsemen short story just before Shadowlands came out? I know most of us are blocking out Shadowlands, like we have a mental block, we pretend like it doesn't exist. But do you guys at least remember the short story? In that short story, we're told why Bolvar isn't as strong as Arthas. Why Bolvar doesn't have quite the same level of control over the Scourge as Arthas used to have. And the reason for it is Bolvar is actively resisting the power of the Helm. Remember, at that point, they didn't yet know about Nipple Dude on the other side, so he was actively resisting the power of the Helm. And the reason Bolvar was doing it is Bolvar realized if he gives in to that power, he will not be able to walk it back. Like, once that power takes hold, that's it. Game over. Thanks for playing. You now belong to Nipple Dude on the other side. Right? So Bolvar actively rejected that part of his power. And if it wasn't for Sylvanas ripping the helm from his head, and you could see just how hard it was to remove that helm, the power of the helm wanted to cling to Bolvar. Right? And once it was removed, that's when Bolvar was finally free. And, you know, Zuval was no longer in charge, as it were. Although I do think Zuval probably weakened Bolvar quite significantly so that Sylvanas could win, because we know that Bolvar, you know, he wanted that giant hole in the sky. If only we could go back and tell Sylvanas, no, you don't know how bad that expansion is. Let's keep the sky whole and hail, and let's go to the Dragon Isles. Let's go hang out there. That's a lot more fun than where you want to fucking take us. But anyways, we went, we came back. It's over now. We don't have to worry about that anymore. So Alleria is going to fall. In my estimation, she has to fall. Now, I have a theory. I don't know how many of you watched my video on my analysis of the short story. Did all of you here watch the analysis, or are there some of you that have not seen it yet? I just want to know in how much detail do I have to recover what I said there. Okay, so some of you have watched it at least. As I said in that video, right? I believe that Xal'atath and Alleria is the same being. And I now believe that even more than what I believed it yesterday. There is a moment during the new campaign where Xal'atath shows Alleria memories. All of the memories that Xal'atath shows Alleria is right. It's the correct memories. Alleria has no problem with any of those memories whatsoever. Until the last. The very last memory that Xal'atath shows Alleria is wrong. Turalyon rejects Alleria and tells Alleria that she has become a monster. Now you might be saying to yourself, yeah, but Akko, I mean, they wanted her to become emotional. What if the memories that Xal'atath showed Alleria wasn't Alleria's memories, but Xal'atath's memories? Now, in order to understand this, I don't believe that Xal'atath is Alleria from our timeline. The way it works in World of Warcraft, there are thousands of timelines. And we know, for example, Murozond that exists in World of Warcraft wasn't born from our timeline. The Murozond that we constantly engage with is a Murozond, a Nosdormu that fell in another timeline and is now acting as if he's the big dick the big cheese that can do whatever he wants. I believe that Xal'atath is Alleria that fell to the whispers of the void in another timeline and was then brought from that timeline to our timeline. This is why Xal'atath says when you walk into Orgrimmar, they will pay for what was done to me here so very long ago. And I have racked my brain. I've read every single piece of history about Orgrimmar and about the Void and the battles fought there, and there has never been anything done to Xal'atath there. 100% no evidence of anything ever happening to Xal'atath at Orgrimmar, except, of course, if Alleria falls to the whispers of the Void and then gets defeated at Orgrimmar, and in an attempt to cleanse her, in an attempt to try and save her, they transfer her soul into the blade. And that's then where that blade is born. So the blade exists currently, but it's actually born in the future. And I believe that it's that final memory that Xal'atath shows her that is the difference maker between Alleria and Xal'atath. That memory, Alleria in her own timeline, Turalyon did turn on her. Turalyon did not fight for her. We already know that the timelines are not the same. They play out very, very differently. We also know that the timelines don't have to play out the same way. Alleria doesn't have to become Xal'atath in our timeline, but I think Alleria is going to come close to becoming Xal'atath. I think Alleria is going to be right on the edge, and it might actually be Turalyon that pulls her off the ledge and stops her, because in Xal'atath's timeline, Turalyon rejected her. Turalyon was probably part of the people that killed her and placed her inside the blade, whereas in our timeline, Turalyon has not rejected her. The problem, though, is that Alleria seems to be playing into the hands of the Void, at least from what I can tell. Now, you guys can disagree with me if you want, and I'll get to chat in a second. Alleria is actively distancing herself from her family, from her loved ones. Right? She actively is trying to stay away from the people that love her. In my opinion, that makes her more susceptible to the corruption of the Void, because you don't have your loved ones there with you that can sort of act as a buffer, but also act as a maybe turn back, right? And that's, by the way, the only reason she doesn't want to be near her family. She doesn't want Turalyon to find out just how far gone she already is, like just how many powers she's already obtained for herself. On the flip side of this, I think we're also going to see Turalyon turn into something more. I'm not entirely sure yet if Turalyon is going to actually be a fanatic of the light, although it is possible. And I think, by the way, it's going to be Arator that saves both his parents. So as Alleria goes balls to the wall, void gung-ho, and Turalyon, maybe after seeing what Alleria has become, strengthens and hardens himself within the light, it will be Arator that brings them back together, the child of light and shadow, right? That brings them back together and unites them once again, so that Alleria can get control of herself, but also so that Turalyon can realize that this is not the way. And it's sort of, in my opinion at least, I think it is foreshadowed within the story. And I'll put it to you guys this way, right? So this is the story. Alleria knew that if Turalyon could hear the voices that clawed at her psyche, he would either push her away forever or spend the rest of his life trying to fix her, possibilities that were equally repugnant. She loved him for exactly who he was and sometimes wondered if he loved her merely out of habit and stubbornness. She was changing and evolving into something new, but Turalyon was hardening into who he was and had always been. He didn't need to know that. It's that last bit, but Turalyon was hardening. So in other words, Turalyon is also hardening into the light. And it's a very specific word that they use there. And when you think about followers of the light, their hearts are truly hardened. The followers of the light see only this one perspective. They see only this one path. And anything that isn't on this path is considered to be blasphemous, is considered to be evil, is considered to be worthy of rejection, because it's only this path that they actively care about. And I think that is exactly what she is recognizing within Turalyon. It goes on, right? She actually explains there that Turalyon is actively feeling more and more uncomfortable in her presence. So as she grows in the void, Turalyon is actively starting to feel more and more uncomfortable. So I think we are going to get a bit of a, something that pulls at the heartstrings. And it's also so incredibly poetic, maybe, that their statues in Stormwind are literally called the Lovers. And if when it comes to writing stories, if you're called the Lovers, it's almost like it's an invitation to break that shit apart, right? Even if it is just for a small moment in time. I don't know if Blizzard will go gung-ho and kill Turalyon or kill Alleria, and that might be the thing that actually invokes the Child of Light and Shadow, gives Arator full control over both light and shadow. I think it's also very interesting that it is dragon tattoos. So that I find incredibly interesting. What does the dragon tattoos make you think of? Love story. Hanzo. It makes me think of the yin and yang sign. That's what it makes me think of, because in a lot of stories, they'll oftentimes have two dragons, one white and one dark, and they'll sort of merge together to form the yin and yang sign. It is a Chinese symbol, it's a Buddhist symbol, so it kind of makes sense, right? That it's these two dragons perhaps fighting inside of him, and it is light and shadow in equal measurement to one another. So for me, I think that is what Arator will become. He is currently training within the light, and that's perfectly fine. But I think Arator is going to recognize himself as part void, part light. And I would like to know, like, this isn't part of anything I had planned, because I literally just thought of it, but what would a paladin be that is part light, part void? Nixie, thanks for the $5. Really appreciate that. And yes, that whisper is absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. The Golden One claims a vacant throne. The Crown of Light will bring only darkness. I believe that is Turalyon. I believe that Turalyon will be the one that claims that throne as he hardens into the light. Perhaps after seeing that Alleria falls to the darkness, he hardens himself. He becomes this hyper-vigilant warrior of the light. And then he claims the Alliance throne, because now he no longer has time for Anduin and his bullshit. From his perspective, the Alliance needs to unite now and need to destroy Alleria and the Void and everything else. And I think it's going to be Arator that sort of softens his father's heart. But Arator first needs to accept the Void into himself so that he can bring balance to light and void. At least that's my thinking right now. To be honest, I couldn't care less about the Child of Light and Shadow stuff. I hope they don't go that route. Ryan, why? It is a whisper. It's a whisper that's kept us busy for a very long time. And it's also a whisper, or not a whisper, a prophecy that brought one of the coolest cinematics that World of Warcraft has ever had into existence. So why would you not want to see more of that shit? Elune is the Void and the Light. Makes sense. Her warriors could be that in between. Matthew, how you doing, bro? I don't think it has anything to do with Elune. Although it is entirely possible. We don't know what Elune is yet. right? So there's a lot that Elune could still do in the next expansion that we'll have to wait and see. I have a problem with the Void, though. Then we can get now. And the Void that consumed Deathwing and does the Whispers seems like two different things. What do you mean, Holly? Oh, but, okay, so people completely misunderstand the Void as an entity. The old gods have always and only ever had one objective. And that is to bring about the Old One's return, to bring about the Void Lords. That's it. That is their only job. That's their only role. The idea behind it is that whoever is last, so this is what I've been able to gather thus far. The reason they've been fighting one another is for them to become the conduit that opens the way for a Void Lord. Now, again, you have to think about this in the same way that you think about Sargeras being summoned through or any of the Titans being summoned through. Even the Well of Eternity was not strong enough to sustain Sargeras being summoned into our world. It was just the amount of power that you require to summon a being like that into our world is just too great. So you can imagine that the same is true of a Void Lord. If you want to summon a Void Lord into our world, you need a ton of power. Perhaps all of the power that all of the old gods represent united. So, from the old gods' perspective, as they grew and as, they fight with each other, as they defeat each other, the one will absorb the power of the others until there is just one. So, at the time, it looked as if Yesuraj was actually the one that was going to be the one, and then that one will sacrifice himself in order to become the very conduit that summons through a Void Lord so that the Void Lord can arrive here on Azeroth, right? That's sort of how it works. But they needed Xal'atath. As we went around killing each of the old gods had to come up with a new plan. Remember, if I'm not mistaken, the cinematic where Xal'atath is resurrected or freed from the blade, is it not, does N'Zoth not tell her, remember our bargain? I'm almost certain of it. N'Zoth mentioned something along the line of, we have a deal, right? Or we had a deal, remember our deal, something to that effect. And then Xal'atath leaves and she says, I'll see you guys again. I believe that was the deal that was made. She now had to become the harbinger. She now had to become the one that summons them into our world. Right? And that's exactly what she's doing with the Dark Heart. Collecting all of their essences, specifically the essence of Galakrond. I have a theory about that, but I'm not going to go into it too deeply right now because I'm not entirely convinced yet of the theory. But there's something awkward for me about Yogg-Saron corrupting Galakrond, but then somehow Galakrond becomes a dragon of decay, effectively. I find that super awkward, so I'm not entirely sure yet what to make of that, but, fundamentally, the way the story at least looks to me is that all of the old gods was always going to die. There was never a universe or a future where, N'Zoth exists right until the end. And the reason for, the reason I believe that all of the old gods have to die is what the old gods are. Kriam, thank you so much. Yes, you're right. He does insist that the blade has to stay, which may actually mean more than you think. But the old gods, what are the old gods? I mean, everyone knows the story, so I'm not going to wait for you guys to answer, but you all know that the old gods, according to the Titans at least, so we'll take them at their word for now, are fragments sent forth by the Void Lords into our world. This means that none of the old gods are actually beings in their own right. Right? They don't exist. They're not individuals. They exist only as a fragment of the one that sent them. So if N'Zoth, for example, was sent by Dementius, then N'Zoth actually is just Dementius, but a fragment of it. So N'Zoth lives purely to bring forth Dementius. And I believe this is true for each and every one of the old gods. They simply exist as a fragment of their Void Lord. And so for them, death isn't really death. It's a worthy sacrifice, you know? Because ultimately, all they care about is bringing forth the Void Lords. Or at least one of them. This also plays very much into the new Dark Art cinematic, or the new Dark Art quest that we did, where we're actively told everything that's happening on our planet right now, the visions of light that everyone is getting, Locust Walker says straight up that these are the exact same things that happened on their planet, Koresh. People on Koresh, or the beings on Koresh, started to experience these visions, these light visions. And then suddenly, Dementius appeared. Now my question is, it was never confirmed that that Koresh had... I don't think so. Can anyone tell me? We don't know much about Koresh, but was it ever confirmed that Koresh had a Titan soul? I don't think it was ever confirmed. Yeah. This is the first time that we... Well, Elodie, you say not before this, but we're not entirely sure that this Radiant song is from a Titan. We assume that it is from Azeroth. Remember, we assume that it is from Azeroth, right? But Koresh was never confirmed to having had a Titan soul inside of it. So it could be that the Radiant song that everyone is currently hearing isn't actually coming from Azeroth. It's coming maybe from that crystal, that giant crystal that sticks out of the roof. What if it's coming from there? I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying it is possible that these whispers or these visions are not actually visions from Azeroth, but visions from something else. Perhaps visions from the light itself. So the light is sending these radiant visions to try and warn us about the void and what the void is doing. It's just... So my problem with Azeroth speaking to us is I don't even believe that Azeroth has ever spoken to us. Those of you that watched my discussion with Pyromancer will know Magni, right, claims that he's the speaker of Azeroth. And coincidentally, he hears the whispers of Azeroth right up until the point that we kill N'Zoth. And once we kill N'Zoth, we now find out that after Battle for Azeroth, the voice stopped completely. Azeroth stopped speaking to Magni 100%. In fact, Magni is throwing a bit of a temper tantrum. He's a bit like, well, she didn't want me, she rejected me, she fucking ghosted me, so fuck her. That's what Magni is up to right now, right? Complaining about the fact that she's not speaking to him. And then you get the whisper. The King of Diamonds has been made a pawn. And if you think about the whispers of Magni, or the whispers of Azeroth to Magni, everything we did at the behest of Magni led to N'Zoth's freedom. We did things for Magni because he kept saying champion, right? And then he would send us off to some bullshit task. But all of those tasks led to us freeing N'Zoth. So I don't believe Magni has ever spoken to Azeroth. I don't believe that Azeroth has ever spoken to anyone. I believe that it was N'Zoth. N'Zoth was the one that spoke to Magni. And I believe that right now, it's not Azeroth that's speaking to us, but the light. That's my opinion, at least. The light is showing us this radiant song. Because the light is trying to warn us. And it kind of makes sense that the same thing happened on Koresh. Because it's fine if you tell me the radiant song happens on Azeroth, but then, maybe Locust Walker tells us that people started seeing visions on Koresh as well. But that people on Koresh are also seeing radiant songs. Why would two titans, galaxies apart from one another, communicate in exactly the same way? The titans aren't the same. Each and every one of the titans have a completely different set of powers, set of skill sets. It's all different. And yet somehow they all talk exactly the same? I don't believe that at all. Like 100% do not believe that. Beer expert, which all god image? I have an image here that someone sent me in DMs on Twitter that I want to talk about. Hold up, let me just no. Yeah. Okay, if it's that one, yes, that's exactly the same one that I've been DM'd. So, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. We'll get to that. Her dreams sing beneath the surface. Our dreams, our song. Oh yeah, I fundamentally believe that Magni didn't hear from Azeroth. If so, Azeroth did a wonderful fucking job of ensuring that N'Zoth would be free. Like, if indeed it was Azeroth that spoke to Magni, I don't know why she wanted N'Zoth to be free. Magni heard what he wanted to hear. Also, he's the only character canonically whose curse of flesh was reversed. But then it's also reversed again. Because from what I understand from data mining, Magni actually becomes flesh again. We haven't seen those cinematics yet, but there is a cinematic that actually speaks about Magni turning to flesh again. Don't know exactly how, but he basically goes into a deep coma, and then stuff happens, and suddenly he's flesh again. So yeah, that apparently is going to happen as well. Didn't 1,000 Years of War say something about a song from Argus? Argus did sing to Alleria, but not radiantly. It wasn't like a radiant vision or anything to do with the light, really. His voice sounded like singing. Which appears to be a thing. While the Titans sleep, maybe they do sing to some extent. But the fact that it's literally the same thing that people on Koresh saw and that we're now seeing on Azeroth just doesn't make sense to me. Why would two Titans have the exact same way of communicating in a radiant song of some... that makes no sense to me. Also, why would Azeroth's vision be radiant? We've never had any evidence that Azeroth is a being of light. If anything, Azeroth would be more void-infused than light-infused. And yet, her visions are light? I don't understand. Like, none of that makes sense to me. I genuinely don't think that it is Azeroth that is speaking to us. I think we're getting visions from the light. Don't know if they are exactly the same, since the Ethereals aren't hearing the song right now. No, but they said Radiant Song, and Locust Walker confirmed that the beings on Koresh also received Radiant Songs. Based on Azerite, were the special moves from the Heart of Azeroth Radiant damage? Some of them were, but not all of them. There's a quest in Legion where a Naru is being hurt, and it says it's singing a sad song. The Naru absolutely sing, right? The Naru would be the thing that, if you want to talk about a radiant song, that's the Naru. They're radiance, right? So they shine radiance, and they sing. There's this one quest also back in Legion where some of the demons are hitting a Naru, and they're joking because they're sort of finding it funny that every single time they hit the Naru makes musical noises as the Naru is being killed. So, there's a thing like that as well. So clearly they do make music. The oracles in Zereth Mortis speak with music and has to do with fate. Yeah, well, from what we can tell, at least, it seems like the first ones used music, which, again, is maybe a clue to something. As someone who knows nothing about WoW lore, this all sounds nuts. You have no idea, bro. You have no idea. I think the World Souls are potential, not Titans, not anything we know, but the Titans keep getting there first and making them Titans. So Brickle J, that would 100% play into my theory that suggests that the Titans, as they're known, the ones that live inside planets, they are actually first ones, right? So they are the original beings of the Great Beyond. And the first ones, the ones that created the Titans and the Eternal ones, they are imposters. They're not actually the first ones, but they sort of claim to be so that they could go around doing what they need to do. It all depends on whether or not the Titans or the Eternal ones even know that that is the case, and that might actually also be part of the reason why Elune left. Elune may have figured out the truth about their creation, about what they are, and that's why Elune came to Azeroth to try and protect her as best she could, knowing what their actual goal or job was, right? I think this patch was so good because it opened so many options and characters for the story and has so many good protagonists and antagonists. It's so good. I love it. Oh, yeah. You can immediately, I just want to say, you can instantly tell Chris Mason is back. We've had one short story and a single quest line, and there are so many things to speculate on. It's almost as if there's more things to speculate on in a single short story and a single quest line than the whole of Dragonflight combined. The whole of Dragonflight and Shadowlands combined, right? But it is now sort of making some of the stuff in Shadowlands feel almost more impactful in a way. Barrels, because I don't stream on Twitch on Friday nights. Friday nights is just on the main YouTube channel. All other nights is Twitch and YouTube, the second channel. Akalon TV. I wish there was more Horde presence. I still think the Horde is taking a backseat still. To be fair though, Speed Demon, I'm happy with that. Every single time the Horde gets put into the limelight, we lose a fucking war chief. So I'm alright. Like, let's ignore the Horde for a while. We don't even have a war chief now, so what happens? We lose the whole council? Like, no, don't give Blizzard any ideas. Leave the Horde alone. We've played musical chairs with the war chief seat for too long. Let the Alliance deal with that shit. Let's kill a couple of Alliance leaders for a bit, and then we can come back to the Horde. Once we have a war chief again, maybe. Are there any cool Horde leaders left besides Thrall? Lorthamar is still around, and he seems to be picking up. You have, what's her face? The Nightborn, Thalyssra, also super cool. Talanji, also super cool. She's still out there. Bane should be cool, but Bane is nothing at the minute. But Bane is supposed to be super cool, but for some reason, Blizzard doesn't care about him. So it's sort of sad because Bane is badass, actually. Like, actually badass. Yeah, I would say Lorthamar is probably, at this point, I would put Lorthamar as my favorite to become the war chief of the Horde. If the Horde was to ever have a war chief again, Lorthamar is probably it. Yeah, I think Talanji is going to become cool, but I think Blizzard needs to do a little bit more with Talanji. Talanji needs to play with us a little bit more, and we need to get to know her a little bit better. But I do think there's something cool that can come from Talanji and Talanji's character. So I'm definitely still looking forward to seeing Talanji. Mirakas, how you doing, bro? Griffin, how you doing? Ragnar, how you doing, bro? All right, so let me quickly show you guys something. So this has been data mined. You guys know this crystal, right? Now, there's something very interesting about this crystal. The crystal changes color from light to shadow. Now, originally, I was of the opinion that the crystal changing color from light to shadow was corruption of the void that turned the crystal into this void light. Because if you look at the transition as well from one to the other, it really does look like it powers up and then it powers up and then it powers up and then it powers up, right? So it's sort of like it powers up to the side of the void and the void is not yet strong enough to keep it empowered. And so then the light comes back and it takes power and then it powers up again. You have the Arathians inside, underground at the crystal. The Arathians very much tied to the light. The Arathian kingdom was part of the Lordaeron series of kingdoms that were all considered to be kingdoms of the light. So very, very deep connection to the light. The Arathians, of course, are Arathians that left Arathi and found their home somewhere else. So we know there's another human kingdom out there somewhere. We don't know where it is, but it is out there somewhere. And that human kingdom is probably very, very closely tied to the light. And they sent these warriors from their kingdom to protect this crystal. I would assume that is their sacred charge. But then, of course, we got this Muriel from the game. Here you have an old god, right? What looks to be N'Zoth, at least from my perspective. I know a lot of people sort of pretended like this might actually be a new old god. I think this is just N'Zoth. The many eyes, the tentacles everywhere, this just looks like N'Zoth, or at least a representation of N'Zoth. And I know I saw some people on Twitter saying, but N'Zoth had round eyes. It's like, yeah, but they're obviously, you can see that they used probably precious gems to signify his eyes, because this is clearly a Muriel that's almost sort of the legend of N'Zoth, if that makes sense. And then you have this crystal that N'Zoth seemingly is reaching to. And the crystal is shining all around. This one right here. What if these two things are exactly the same? What if this is this crystal? So this crystal, at some point, actually belonged to the void. Yeah, but Holy, this is the problem. We don't know what happened to this crystal. The light could actually have taken control of the crystal in a giant battle, because as you can see here, at this point, N'Zoth still controls the crystal, and all of the faceless ones standing around N'Zoth serving him. During the war, the Arathians could have arrived. Well, this would actually be prior to the war, actually, but it could be that the crystal itself, the encasing of the crystal, was destroyed. And the crystal is now lodged inside the ceiling of that giant cavern. For whatever reason, for whatever purpose, the crystal is now lodged inside it. Or perhaps more... Because Ian said something very interesting. Ian spoke about the crystal, and then in an interview, Ian said not that far away from where Sargeras plunged something. He made reference to Sargeras plunging his sword into Xal'atath. What if this crystal was actually higher up? And Sargeras pushed the crystal out into the cavern. So now you're seeing this giant crystal, but the crystal wasn't always either that far out or that far. We'll have to see, though. I haven't been in the... I've not had access to the beta, So I'm not entirely sure how old this crystal actually is. Right? I don't know how long that crystal has been there. I'm also not entirely sure how long the Arathians have been there. So if this crystal predates Sargeras stabbing the planet, then clearly this crystal, something must have happened to it, because when you look at the area around the crystal, it looks as if that crystal got there violently. That crystal got there violently. Right, so whatever it is not a natural occurrence. It is either it was thrust into the ceiling or through that ceiling. But you can see that there's breakages around it. Like if you look closely just on this picture, all of those light purple areas around the crystal are cracks in the roof. Right? Around for 15 years, according to the beta. Wait, a Hallowfall has only been around for 15 years? Are you talking about the Arathians have only been in Hallowfall for around 15 years? Because Hallowfall, from what we can tell, is a lot older than that. The Earthen and everyone being there, I mean, yeah, the Arathian... Okay, so the Arathian expedition has only been there for about 15 years. Did they make any mention of the crystal? Like how long the crystal has been there? Barrel's YouTube is a slut for links. It does not like links. You see, because the Arathians must have come for this crystal. That's my thinking, at least. Because I think this crystal is a portal. I think that's why Xal'atath is there. I think Xal'atath is there because this crystal, given enough power, can summon through an old god, a Void Lord. That's why she's made her way into this crystal. Or what if Xal'atath is there to drain the crystal? What if the void power, what if the dark heart requires one more piece of essence? And what if this crystal is actually, what if we're reading the crystal wrong? What if this crystal is kind of like a Horcrux? N'Zoth linked himself to this crystal so that when we kill him, his essence escapes into this crystal. Because my theory around the dark, the dark heart, is that the essence of each and every one of the old gods is absorbed into the dark heart, and Yogg-Saron was Galakrond, because Galakrond had the essence of Yogg-Saron inside of him. What if that is what this crystal is, and that is why Xal'atath is there? Yeah, she's draining the void out of it, because that void that is inside of it is it's the essence of N'Zoth. So a Horcrux is effectively, in Harry Potter, he who shall not be named made all of these Horcruxes, and he tied his soul to each of these Horcruxes. So in order to kill him, you have to first destroy all of the Horcruxes so that you can destroy him. Because if you kill him, but there's still Horcruxes alive, he can always come back to life. So that's effectively what it is. The encasing looks like it's supposed to hold something in it, in that. Don't worry too much about the encasing, because as I said, that anything could have happened to that encasing. The crystal is what I'm after, right? The crystal is the thing that I care about most. And looking at this, it looks at least as if this Muriel is portraying N'Zoth being protective, very protective of this crystal. Like, whatever this crystal is, even if this crystal isn't this crystal clearly mattered to the Faceless Ones and to N'Zoth. Right? It clearly mattered. So farming old god blood in Ashgate. Yeah, well, it wouldn't be too hard. So the only old god that you would have trouble finding its essence would be Cthulhu. I'm not entirely sure where she could even get the essence of Cthulhu. Except, of course, if we didn't see everything that transpired when we went back to chase Iridicron to Galacron. So we only saw them drain Galacron, but they also went to Cthulhu. Because remember, at that time, Cthulhu was still very much alive. So they could have used that moment to go to Cthulhu and grab his essence as well, because Cthulhu would know that he's dead now, right? So fundamentally, it is possible that that's how they got their hands on the essence of Cthulhu, but I believe that you need all of the Old God's essence in order to summon through the Void Lords. Do mention that there has been activity in the south of Kalimdor. There's a lot of things that's seemingly happening right now all over the world. Everyone is seeing visions. People are getting all manner of sort of weird reports going on everywhere. We know that the Void has become a hell of a lot more unstable. And we also know that the Void has become a lot more powerful. Because Xal'atath now has the ability to actually summon Void creatures into our world. She has an entire Void army that is fighting alongside her. So clearly, whatever the Void's influence used to be on Azeroth, it is far greater now than what it's ever been before. Do the Anchorage have another pair of Emperors that maybe have Cthulhu's essence? Maybe it could be. It could be. Remember, that was way back when lore, so Blizzard didn't spend as much time trying to flesh it out as much as they do these days. What if old gods are part of an old god that couldn't manifest in their true form and got scattered into old gods? No, I don't think so. I think the old gods are... So my current theory is a little disjointed because I've not really thought through the whole thing yet. So it's gonna sound crazy to you guys because this is not a complete theory yet. But my current thinking is that the old gods are not actually old gods. So I believe the story that the Void Lords sent through their own essences. I 100% believe that. And that their essences fell on various different planets. But I think the old gods are an amalgamation of decay and void magic. I believe the old gods are basically the elementals of decay, the elemental lords of decay. And it was when the void essence landed on Azeroth, decay was drawn to it. Like, because void and decay would be of a similar fashion, right? Decay is also, it's entropy. Void appears to be very much sort of a power based in entropy. And so I think the decay was drawn to it, and the decay sort of absorbed it, and it allowed them to become super big, super powerful. And that's probably also why the old gods drove the other elementals crazy, because decay was never supposed to break the balance, so to speak. And decay did break the balance because decay grabbed power from the void. This means that the old gods are not from the void, but they serve the void because they absorbed the void essence when they arrived on Azeroth. So that would be my thinking about what the old gods actually are. It would explain why we've never seen decay elementals or decay elemental lords anywhere on Azeroth. Decay is clearly a power that exists on Azeroth, but it's a power that we've never seen. And given that every single one of the other elemental forces have elemental forces, why does decay not have that? Spirit, we have an explanation for. We're told that Azeroth consumed all of the spirit on Azeroth during her growth spurt or whatever, right? So we know why spirit isn't there, but there's never been an explanation for decay. And that would also then explain Oh, what's that place called again? Brackenite Hollow. That may actually explain Brackenite Hollow. As we killed the old gods, decay is starting to return to its original form. And for some reason, it appears to be very much attracted to that area in Brackenite Hollow. I believe that that's going to form part of one of the expansions moving forward. Maybe not this saga, but maybe the next saga. Because there's definitely still stuff going on in Brackenite Hollow. If you remember, I don't think we've dealt... Have we dealt with the leader of Brackenite Hollow? In the dungeon, we fight her, but she escapes right at the end. Did we fight her in one of the raids? I didn't raid, so obviously I have no idea. Did you guys fight her in any of the raids? Because as far as I know, she literally just fucking peaced out and you don't see her again. So clearly she's still up to something. So I do think we're going to have to go back and challenge her again. I did the tier questlines. I didn't see her there. There was Decay present, but she was not there. I don't remember. It would actually be interested. What's her name? If someone can Google it quickly and just see. Can you have a world without fire? Sifex, from what we can tell, no. So it would appear as if... So my theory currently is actually that elemental lords can never die. So Smolderon isn't actually the elemental lord of fire. Smolderon is the elemental lord of fire now. Because Ragnaros is still being reborn. That's why Smolderon isn't anywhere near as powerful as Ragnaros. Because he's the acting elemental lord of fire. He's not actually the fire lord. But even if the elemental lords can indeed die, there will always be another one. There will always be another elemental lord. It's just... as long as there is the element is present, there will be a lord thereof. So the only element that isn't present on Azeroth is spirit, and therefore there is no lord because that's been completely consumed. So unless something arrives that completely consumes the element of fire, fire will always have elementals and therefore will always have an elemental lord. I'm just not sure about the mechanics. Blizzard have never actually explained the mechanics thereof. All I can think is that as one lord dies, his or her power returns back to the elemental plane, and all that power then coalesces into a new lord, right? Because that's basically, remember, the elemental lord, the elements in the elemental lords are literally pure element. They don't contain any flesh. They don't contain anything else. They're pure element. So they are made out of nothing. There's the current theory is that the proto-drakes are actually from the elemental planes. They were born inside the elemental planes. Not the elemental planes that the Titans created, the elemental planes, the original elemental planes, before the Titans created the elemental prisons that they called the elemental planes. But that's a whole different story. Always thought it was just might makes right. The next most powerful fella takes the job. Ryan, it could be possible, but then if you think about someone like Smolderon, you think about someone like Ragnaros, you don't see many others that signify their form, right? So they have pretty unique forms that they take. So I would be surprised if that's the case. I do think that they are unique, almost like reincarnations of the previous one. But that's just the theory. I have no evidence for that whatsoever. But yeah, I think that crystal... I have a feeling that crystal is a gateway. Or serves as a gateway. But if that crystal... What do you guys think the crystal is? He wasn't really... Larry, he wasn't trying to cleanse Azeroth. So fire does cleanse, but it also destroys. Right? So the cleansing fire that they're talking about is a destructive fire. But in their minds, it's cleansing, right? It cleanses things. A glacier, we only see the very tip of it. Just the tip of something bigger. A being, a font of power. But I'm not sure. I don't know. And that's what makes it interesting. We aren't seeing the whole thing. Well, we aren't seeing the whole thing. You guys are very correct. But if you had to take a guess, what would your guess be? I don't know how you doing, bro. Who's watching Preach's video? I think the crystal is equivalent to one of Azeroth's organs. It stems bleeding with cauterizing. I think it's a prison. You guys saying it's like an iceberg? Well, we know that it is like an iceberg, but yeah. Naru ship, but I don't think it's a Naru ship. So that I'm pretty convinced of. I don't think that it is a Naru ship. I do think it so my original theory was that in the same way that the Void Lords sent their essence into Azeroth or into the Great Beyond, the Light Lords or whatever is the beings of light, so the ones the Naru serve, they did the same thing. So they also just shot their essences out into the Great Beyond, and that crystal you see there is one of those essences. It landed on Azeroth, clearly crashed right into the crust, into the core of Azeroth, and then it was just there. And then at some point it may have been corrupted by the old gods. The problem with that is it becomes very convoluted. Speed Demon. If it is a Naru ship, when the hell did it come to Azeroth, and why did we not know about it? Someone must have seen that ship, and with the speed and the force that thing would have struck the ocean, it would have created some kind of wave, something. Because it smashed into the ocean, right into the core of Azeroth, or into the crust of Azeroth. Right, that would be ridiculous. Not to mention the fact that for that to have happened, the earliest that it could have happened would have been Kalimdor, Land of Eternal Stars. Are we convinced that the Arator at that point in time, or the Naru, because remember the ships that they use are not necessarily Naru built. So what I got from the ships that the Naru use is that they're built by the Arator. They were built by the Draenei. And that's because most of the Army of the Light are Draenei. Because I don't think the Naru requires ships to travel. I mean, they don't breathe and they can clearly fly. So they could probably just fly on their own. Do we actually think that they require ships in order to travel? What happened with Zera and the Light Shard and Legion? Then the Draenei learn how to build those ships from the Naru, though. But it doesn't mean that the Naru built it first. It could literally just be that the Naru told the Draenei how to build it, so that the Draenei could build it so that they could build their Army of the Light. Right? The Naru... I don't know why, but I get this sense that the Naru isn't an industrialized people. If that makes sense. They don't look like they're capable of doing anything. Especially bold stuff. They just float around and make music when you hit them. So I'm not sure if they would build ships. Like maybe they would. Maybe they did build the first ships but I don't know. From my perspective, because they do resemble in many ways Draenei architecture as well. Now, it could be that the Draenei learnt everything that they know from the Naru, and that's why they look similar. So that doesn't even explain anything, right? We don't really know its name, even if it has one. That's the thing, though. We don't really know what the Naru are exactly. Yeah, because we have whispers that say that the Naru is actually part of the Void, but then the Naru isn't part of the Void. So you are right. When it comes to the Naru, they are the next mystery that we're going to have to solve at some point in World of Warcraft. Thought on it being Anshe's heart. Huh. It is possible. It's possible. What was the... You guys remember in folk and fairy tales? The sun, if I'm not mistaken, the sun left the moon. And that is what made the moon sad. And that is ultimately why the moon had the blue child, no? The white lady had the blue child because Anshe was gone. Isn't that the story, or am I remembering it wrong? Yeah, Anshe got wounded or something, and then he was gone, and so now the white lady was alone, and then she had the blue child. Okay, so Anshe is the sun according to the Tauren. So the Tauren have two names. They have Anshe and they have Musha. Musha is the moon, Anshe is the sun. But you have to remember that that's just Tauren folklore. It's folklore handed down generation after generation based on their interpretation of things. But there are those of us that believe that Anshe and Musha are actual beings. So it's not actually the sun. They're actual beings. And that Anshe may have been the warrior of light, and Musha may have been the warrior of night. Right, so effectively Elune. Because Elune is the name that the Night Elves gave to the moon, whereas the Tauren call... Well, it's largely accepted, by the Tauren at least, that Elune and Musha might be the same thing. I think, if I remember correctly, the Night Elves don't like that, though. I could be mistaken, but I think the Night Elves do not like the idea of Elune being considered the same. Right, during he got hurt, and her tear turned into the Cosmic Wanderer, but I could be mixing them together, the folktales. So this could actually be the tear of Azeroth. I know, Matt. I spoke to Pyro about that. It is also possible. The thing is, as far as speculation goes, it's a good theory. Because if you listen to the descriptions given to Anshe, Sargeras very much fits those same descriptions. But then again, we don't know anything really about Sargeras. We know even less about Anshe. So it could be anything, right? Night Elves have said, thinking someone else has their god's favor. I can't believe that. Elune was name dropped a ton of times now by different beings, though, so I'm pretty sure the name at least is confirmed. Yeah, but remember, just because you have to remember something here, they speak different languages. Right? They speak different languages. So, for example, if in Christianity, in English, we say God, right? But it's Yahweh. And I believe it's in Aramaic, where that is the actual name. So it's not God, it's Yahweh. Now in English, we do Yahweh, we do God, we do Jehovah, right? But it's all the same thing. It's just different languages that changes the name. Allah and God, yeah, well, they're not the same, Christian and Muslim God, but all right, yeah, I get what you mean. So it could be that the Night Elves have their name for Elune, which is Elune, right? And the Tauren have their name for Elune, which is Musha, right? And so, yeah, there is a chance that it is simply a language thing. And that's why it's different. Mars and Aries? Yeah, pretty much. Oh, they're definitely not the same. They are most definitely not the same. If you think they are, read the Bible, read the Quran, and then you'll see there's major differences between the two of them. For one, the Christian God says multiple times, I am love. The Muslim Allah never says that he is love. Not once. Not once. He is a lot of things, but he is not love. I'm with Pyromancer that Anshe, you can be with anyone. It is speculation. You pick the one that you think sounds the best to you, and then you go with that, right? Because fundamentally, this is just speculation. We don't have enough information currently in order to make even an educated guess, really, because in order to make an educated guess, we need more information specifically about Anshe. So we need to know if Anshe was an actual being. If it's just a fairy tale, right, and it really is just that the Tauren made up a name for what the sun is, right? So they had no other reason, right, for it was just the sun, and that was just the name that they gave it, and then they had a cool little story about how the sun came to be. Then all of this is for now, right? It's all nonsense. We can stop speculating on it. Or if Anshe was an actual being, we have to know about that, or otherwise it wouldn't work, right? So at this point, it's anyone's guess. Like, you make a guess, you sort of run with whichever theory you like, fundamentally, you know? And I'm fine with that, because I also think Pyromancer's theory is pretty cool. I think it's a really cool way of looking at Anshe and Sargeras. So I have no problem with it. I just like spitballing in many different directions and seeing, you know, what could potentially be true, one side or the other. So yeah. So I'm not going to get into a religious conversation in this podcast, but if you want to discuss Christianity and Islam, I'd be happy to do so. I'm more than happy to discuss my faith on Twitch. So if you want to come over to Twitch at some point and have a conversation about my faith, I'd be happy. I'd be happy to talk about God and talk about the Bible as much as you want, right? But in this podcast, I'm not going to start arguing with you. It's fine, though. The misunderstandings are always funny. Explore all theories to find the one that has the most merit. That's usually how I speculate anyways. I prefer to do it that way because I think the problem with speculating, and it drives some people crazy. Like, some people get really angry because I'll have 4 different videos discussing the same topic, but having 4 different conclusions about that topic. And the reason I do that is because I find it fun to think about every single possible variation of a theory, right? So every single possible variation of a theory and how that impacts things, right? That's sort of the thing for me. So I'm not one of those people that come to a conclusion and then that's just my theory now forever. Because I'm not trying to create new lore. I'm trying to figure out what Blizzard might be doing with the lore. So I like to cover all of my bases. And speculations, though, no matter how wrong they'll end up being, they're most of the time wrong. If you were to ask me, I would say my success rate is probably 25% on speculation. I don't think there's any speculator that can claim higher, because Blizzard oftentimes, Sometimes Blizzard goes with the easiest option, which drives me a little nuts, quite frankly. But then also sometimes Blizzard goes in a direction that no one even thought of that, right? Like the direction they ended up going in, it's like a million guesses I would not have guessed that's where we're going with it. But I guess we're going. So, you can't really get it right. You can't know, really, if you're getting it right. Plus, there's so many things that we've discussed already that we don't know, right? Because Blizzard have not revealed that to us yet. Open to anything but your own opinion. I'll stick to the WoW content that I'm here for. Oh, I'm very open-minded in discussing pretty much anything. If you don't believe me, you can ask anyone that's been on Twitch that's actually discussed things with me. But it is misunderstandings, because I can hear from the way that you're talking that you don't understand. And it wasn't actually aimed at you, it was aimed at Elodie. But, again, I won't go into it. But Elodie, you and I should talk on Twitch, because there are a lot of things you seem to completely misunderstand. Why hasn't Azeroth been born yet? Does the crystal have anything to do with it? No, I don't think the crystal has anything to do with Azeroth being born or not being born. I think Azeroth is imprisoned. That's my personal opinion. Now, I can't be sure, because the Titans claim that their only role on Azeroth was to keep Azeroth free from corruption, and that's why all these engines exist, because it's really just to cleanse Azeroth. I don't believe that for a second. I think those engines are there to empower the prison that was built around Azeroth to keep her sleeping. I believe that's why Azeroth has never actually spoken to anyone, because she can't actually speak to anyone. I also believe that's why Azeroth has not been born. I believe that's why everything is happening the way that it's happening, because the Titans arrived on Azeroth first. And since they were first, this gave them access to Azeroth in a way that the other cosmological forces didn't have. And now the other cosmological forces are basically fighting for Azeroth because they want to remove the Titan influence on Azeroth. That's my thinking on it. They do believe that Azeroth has her own will, but I find it more likely that Azeroth's will is actually the will of other forces. It doesn't matter, they're all books written and read from my man. What if Azeroth is being used the same way Argus was used, or at least slightly different? Well, pretty much. That's my theory. Azeroth is being used the same way Argus is being used, but not in order to rebirth or bring about more demon souls. I think Azeroth is literally being used as sort of like a never-ending battery. It's clear that most of our universe operates on anima. Where does anima come from? From spirit. Where does spirit come from? From Azeroth. So by tapping into Azeroth, you have this basically never-ending font of power that brings forth anima. As they die and they move into the Shadowlands, you can then harvest that anima and use that to empower yourself again, right? So you have this nice little, shall we say, cyclical sort of power factory, if you will. And the Titans and their ilk are in control of this little cycle, so that they and they alone have access to all of the anima there. And no one else can get access to it, because we already know the Necrolords fight the Twisting Nether non-stop. We know that the Void has attacked the Shadowlands at least a few times, suggesting the Void really wants access to it but can't gain access to it. So, that's my theory at least. As Matrix, well, I don't hate that idea. I like the two connectors to other sides. Well, yeah. You have Shadowlands on the one side and you have the Emerald Dream on the other. The Emerald Dream is where the anima is born, then the mortals receive it, and the mortals go into the Shadowlands, and the Shadowlands is where we're drained of that anima, either immediately, so in Revendreth, all of the anima is taken in one go, or in all of the other realms, the anima is sort of slowly taken, and then you gain it back, and then it takes it again. Right? So clearly mortal beings in the Shadowlands still gain anima. Their anima can what's the word I'm looking for? Regenerate, if you will. Symbol in Shadowlands? What do you mean, Chaos? The Jurgmund... What symbol? I really think the crystal is the heart or egg of Azeroth. It's clear to me that the light is corrupting Azeroth through that crystal. Hence the Radiant song and not a Void or Dark song. Epic Thulu, but my problem is if you say that crystal is the heart of Azeroth, but then it's also corrupting Azeroth, how would that work? That does not compute to me. So yeah, I personally would say, I don't think that crystal has anything to do with Azeroth. Personal opinion. That crystal looks foreign. That's why I don't believe that crystal has anything to do with Azeroth. It looks foreign. It looks like something that should not have been there. Also, considering where we are, Azeroth would be asleep many, many miles deeper than where we are. Not that we're not deep, but Azeroth lies at the center of the planet if the Titans are to be believed. Remember, the World Soul went to sleep, and then all of the matter clumped around the World Soul, forming what we would call planets now, right? But the World Soul is very much at the center, in the core, and then the planet forms around it. So I don't believe that these caverns are near the core of where Azeroth is. Weird place for the heart to be, although something could have moved it. Well, if something moves your heart, you're dead, right? Like, if your heart just suddenly moved like a couple of inches to one side or the other, that would be very bad. Do we truly believe that wouldn't be the same thing for a Titan? And I got a feeling that that sword could be actually a key to open the doorway once it is infused with a crystal via the Dark Heart, or it is the tool that will break the crystal this time. That is a guess, and I mean, it's as good a guess as any. I personally think, like I said, I think it's Xal'atath. Xal'atath is going to drain whatever void corruption is inside that crystal in order to finally empower the Dark Heart. From there, we will most likely hunt Xal'atath. Xal'atath will finally make her move for some reason in Quel'Thalas. Now, actually, it's not either. The short story gives us the answer. Xal'atath will have to use the Dark Heart at the Sunwell. Because for some reason, the Void keeps telling Alleria to go to the Sunwell and to finish their communion. That's what the Void wants. While Xal'atath is inside, let me just see if I still have those whispers. I should still have them. Could have sworn I saved it. It's going to be a phase change for the Sunwell. I'm not entirely sure what it will be, but well, I'm just trying to see if I can find. Here we go. All right, so the whispers. Here we go. Here we go. So the old gods, as she enters into Silvermoon, the old god whispers, say to her, "Now return to the sunwell and finish our communion. You owe Lorthamar nothing. Claim what is yours. Destroy him and take this place." So the sunwell clearly is a ridiculous font of power. Why exactly it's that powerful? What exactly makes it that powerful? We can't know. Like, we have no idea. Its surface blazes bright, masking shadows below. We've always speculated that it could be the sunwell, but it could also be this crystal. If you think about it. Its surface blazes bright, masking shadows below. It could be that this crystal was once, at the time of the whisper, it was blazing bright, but it masked whatever shadow was inside of it. It could also be that this crystal is part of another sunwell. So underneath the sunwell, we will find another crystal exactly like this one. The sunwell has clearly played a major role in many of the stories in World of Warcraft, specifically when it comes to resurrection. When you think about it, Arthas made his way to the sunwell in order to resurrect... what's his name now? The Lich. Calthazard. Anton, thank you. Yes. Calthazard. So clearly, the sunwell holds ridiculous amounts of power. And that power isn't really all that clearly explained. We know what the sunwell does, right? We know what the sunwell does for the Blood Elves, but what exactly the sunwell is, I don't think we've ever really had clarification on why exactly it holds this much power, what exactly grants it this power. So it is possible that the sunwell is truly that. The demons were all trying to get to the sunwell in the same way, right? So it is possible that those crystals are very much part of the sunwell, and maybe this was another crystal that was also supposed to be a sunwell, and it got destroyed somehow. For some reason. But I think in order to bring forth the Void Lords, Xal'atath will have to take the Dark Heart to the Sunwell and use the Sunwell's power in order to summon through Dementius or any of the other Void Lords that may want to show up. Let me just really see here. Ryan, question echo. If Azeroth is being used for the Titans' personal ends, why would they basically abandon it? Maybe I'm just not seeing something. Well, they didn't abandon Azeroth. When you say abandon, what do you mean? Well, the Well of Eternity has been destroyed, Ryan, so if they wanted to use that power has been, since the Second Sundering, that power is now free-flowing, right? So it's been diluted quite a bit. It's no longer contained in the well. So the Well of Eternity wouldn't work unless they wanted to fuck around with time, but we know that the Titans do not consider time fuckery with the main timeline to be on the cards. Isn't a Well from the Well of Eternity, and isn't that Lifeblood of Azeroth? It would be more than just that, because the Well of Eternity was super powerful. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that the Well of Eternity wasn't super powerful. But the Well of Eternity was powerful because of the collection of all of its magic. So just a vial of it would not be that powerful. Right? Just a single vial of it would not be that powerful. So it has to be more. It has to be that vial was taken and then something else was involved in it as well. Because again, the lore on the earliest stuff in World of Warcraft is sketches at best. You know, it's sort of like, we kind of know what it is, but we don't exactly know. And it might also be that Blizzard eventually goes deeper into it. You know, they explain that it is a vial from the Well of Eternity, but then also mixed in with something else. We finished, and I'll explain in detail. You might like it. So, Ryan, on what you just wrote there, let me just go up quickly and see. If I can try and gather. So the Titans never left Azeroth. The Titans, if you remember, so the Titans arrive on Azeroth. They claim to have ripped out Yisaraj from the planet, and then they build all of these prisons. They make Titan constructs. They make the Keepers. They do a whole bunch of stuff, right? And then they leave. But they don't leave because they're abandoning Azeroth. They leave because of Sargeras. Because they receive word that Sargeras has gone off the deep end. Agrimar, I believe, is the one that calls them away. That's then when they go to Agrimar. Agrimar tells them of what Sargeras had done, and they go to confront Sargeras. And at that confrontation, they get killed by Sargeras. So if Sargeras did not kill them, there is a good chance that they would never have left. They would have remained by Azeroth's side because that's their new planet, right? And now we know that there is this light in the sky that we can see, and it is entirely possible that that light is visible to us because the Titans have kept the Pantheon close enough to Azeroth so that they can respond if the need arises. Who said that? Holy Locust Walker. Yes, I do have a real name. It's none of your business. Were I to speak it aloud, 1,000 void portals would rip open and some very unpleasant entities would come looking to collect old debts. Is Blizzard... When was this introduced? Like, how old is that line? Is it this patch? Okay, so Blizzard is borrowing quite heavily from Warhammer 40k here. If that is the case, then Blizzard is borrowing quite heavily from Warhammer 40k. It could also be from Warhammer 40k, also in Legion. Because in Warhammer 40k, if you know the real name of a Chaos Demon, you can actually kill the Chaos Demon forever. So very few people will ever give their real names. You'll only get titles, or you'll get... because there's power in real names. Real names hold incredible power. And so people don't use their real names unless, they're certain that they can't be killed for whatever reason. There's also the Emperor now. There's the fairy tales too. It's why fairies don't give their real names. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think Warhammer came up with it first. It's just I heard it for the first time in Warhammer, and so it might be that Blizzard just borrowed it from old fairy tales, but it makes sense, right? So in other words, what Locust Walker... The only thing I can take from that is that the Void doesn't know where Locust Walker is. And that's why he can't speak his real name. Because if he spoke his real name, the Void would instantly know where he is. And then it would be time. I would not be surprised. And this is probably going to be... This is going to be a very hot take. Because obviously zero evidence for anything I'm about to say. But I would not be surprised if Locust Walker was the one that brought forth Dementius on Koresh. Because we know that the Void Lords require a Harbinger in order to arrive. Koresh and the citizens of Koresh experienced a Radiant Song in the exact same way that we do now, and the Radiant Song started the second the Harbinger became active. What if Locust Walker was the Harbinger of Koresh? And It is that made him turn against the void when he watched his entire planet be consumed, that he finally realized this is not what he was hoping for. He was lied to. He was deceived. He gave in to the whispers, and so he taught himself how to resist the whispers. Old God egg, probably morphing cocoons, Vicarrigan and StarCraft 1. I think Locust and Zal are actually allied. Locust tells Alleria to embrace the void and her true nature, which is the same the whispers tell to Alleria on the short story. So the thing is, you have to remember, the void wants Alleria to give in and completely accept the power of the void, right? But they don't want her to resist the void, they want her to give in completely. Locust Walker wants Alleria to accept the void, but remain in control, because that's what he learned how to do. And he's teaching her how to use all of the power of the void without succumbing to the void. So both of them want the same thing, but they don't want to be, they don't want the same outcome. The void wants her to give in because they want her to stop resisting them. Locust Walker wants her to accept the void so that she can become fully powerful, because right now she's unbalanced, as Locust Walker puts it. Her spirit is not in balance because she outright rejects a part of herself that she should actually be giving into, so that she can claim all of that power. Do you smoke cigs or just vape? Big Money Joe, I quit cigarettes. How long has it been now? 2 years, maybe? I think 2 years ago, I stopped smoking. So now it's just the vape. But Locust and Zal might think that if she accepts the void more, Zal can push her into the void more, manipulating her emotions. Well, yeah, of course. It's not... I am not suggesting that I trust Locust Walker. I have never trusted Locust Walker. I think Locust Walker... you see, the problem with beings of the void is trying to... Playing around with the idea of trusting them is very difficult, even if they believe that their goals are noble. Because the way the void operates is it constantly whispers to you. It constantly makes noise within your own mind, right? To the point where once you do give in to the whispers of the void, it becomes impossible for you to discern between the thoughts that is yours and the thoughts that belong to the void. So it is very much possible, even plausible, that Locust Walker is acting on what he perceives to be his own thoughts, even though he is actually doing the bidding of the Void Lords, right? And he wouldn't even know, because he thinks that he has the Void under control, when in reality it is the Void that is controlling him. And he wouldn't know. That's the problem with anyone that follows the Void, and why you can never trust anyone that follows the Void, because, well, you know, they follow the Void. They all have their own agendas, even the old gods. Plus, I don't trust Locust Walker for the simple fact, what does he want? Why would Locust Walker help Alleria all those years ago in 1,000 Years of War? What does he have to gain? He's never made any request of Alleria. He's never made any demands of Alleria. He's never asked for anything. And yet he helps her consistently. And that bothers me, because even when you ask him, why is he in the rift? He doesn't actually, like, he's not forthcoming about why he's in the rift. So his answer is, your question is not without merit. Long ago, I chose to teach Alleria about the ways of the void, but she had proven herself worthy of such lessons with my rescue from the Legion. Perhaps I merely wish to sate my own curiosity, and Telegra's Rift and the Render Eye are both quite the curiosities, aren't they? That's not much of an answer. What exactly are you, why exactly are you doing what you're doing? That's not much of an answer. To just say, maybe I'm just a bit curious. Okay. What? I do not trust Locust Walker one bit. So, Deceiver, it depends on what do we view as half-truths. Asin, I like that theory. Do you think the light will turn out to be evil at the end once we help them to defeat the void? I mean, the light is almost definitely evil. But it depends on what you view as evil. Evil, especially in World of Warcraft, is a question of point of view. From whose point of view is the light evil? From whose point of view are the Titans evil? From whose point of view is the void evil? Because from the point of view of the light, the void is the absolute enemy that must be rejected and resisted at every turn. But that's not true from the void side of things, right? The void does not view itself as the enemy. It does not see what it's doing as the enemy because its goal is the same as that of the light, and that is to be the ultimate power. And it believes that the light is the problem and that the light should be stopped. So the problem is, there's a saying about this. Well, yes, no-name label. So go back to Draenor and go look at, what's the dungeon called? There's a dungeon where life completely, the Everbloom. Go to the Everbloom and go check what happens when life takes over completely. It also destroys just about everything, right? It takes over completely and it suffocates everything around it. So everything is evil from something else's perspective. And that's the crux of it. I like thinking in terms of good and evil because it makes it cool, but it's also important to remember that I don't think concepts like good and evil really exists in World of Warcraft, right? So in real life, there are things that we can say is evil, right? If you walk into a place and you stab 100 people with a knife, that is evil, right? We would all look at that and go, that is fucking evil, right? No one would have a problem with that. Morally speaking, evil. But in video games, morality, I don't think, should be applied one-on-one on art, right? I don't think real-life morality should be applied to a video game, because I think then you limit what a video game can be. So, for example, right now on Twitter, every single patch, people lose their minds over Blizzard using trolls, or over Blizzard using goblins, or over Blizzard... Whenever Blizzard uses anyone in the game, there's someone that loses their shit because, according to them, goblins are actually Jews, right? Or trolls are actually black people. Let's ignore the blatant racism of that belief, because whenever I look at goblins, I don't think of Jews. I think of green fucking goblins. That's what I think of. And when I look at trolls, I don't instinctively think black people. I think these are trolls. So let's move past the blatant racism that such a view would have, and let's just focus on the morality thereof. Right? So if I were to apply real-life morality to a video game, then suddenly, if I get a quest that sends me into an area to go kill 20 trolls, I'm basically getting a quest telling me to go genocide a bunch of people. Right? Of whatever race. That's evil. But that's not the morality of the game. If you're a human playing World of Warcraft The trolls are your enemy. And so if you get a quest to go kill 20 trolls, you are going to kill your enemy because the trolls are your enemy because you are human. And therefore, it makes perfect fucking sense. Because if you don't kill those trolls, they'll come kill you. And so, it makes perfect sense. You limit what a game can do when you try to apply your own morality to what the video game is or isn't allowed to do. So I never do that. When I talk of good and talk of evil, the only time I would say that someone is or something is evil in World of Warcraft is if what they want is bad for us as Azerothians. Right? So if I'm absolutely convinced that the Void only wants to kill the mortals of Azeroth, then I would say the Void is evil. Because that's what they want to do is going to end my existence, and therefore I think you're evil. But I'm not convinced that any of the cosmological forces wants to kill us. I don't think our deaths is really of any importance to any of the cosmological forces. I don't think they care. Based of medieval Europe, like if you're a soldier IRL, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I personally think one should be very careful to not apply real life morality to video games. Real life morality has no place in video games. That being said, though, if you do play Alliance, you're obviously going to hell. I mean, that's obviously true. But everything else is not applicable. They saying a black hole is evil? Yeah, pretty much, right? For the Forsaken, half of me will go to hell. We were to hell. It's called Shadowlands. Oof. Don't remind me, bro. Don't remind me of that expansion. All right, we'll do 5 more minutes of Q&A. The threat of Reorigination makes me disagree. Those guys want us gone. Not necessarily, because you have to think about Reorigination, right? So Reorigination, as its main function, isn't to destroy the mortals. Reorigination's main function is to stop the corruption of the Void on Azeroth. It just so happens to also kill every living thing on Azeroth. But that's not its main function. It's the only answer they have to stopping the Void corruption. So in this, it's very similar to Halo. Now, I don't know much about Halo. I've only finished the first Halo. But in Halo, there's a thing called the Flood. And basically, the Flood, there's only one way to defeat the Flood, and that is to starve the Flood. So there's these giant rings, and if you use them correctly, it kills all organic life in the universe, and that then starves the Flood, and so then the Flood dies. And there's no other way. So it's not that those things are evil, it's just that it's the only way to defeat this enemy. So yeah, that's partly what I would say. All living things are cursed, according to the Titans, though. Well, yeah, from their perspective, but then they've met us at least once, and they didn't kill us. They didn't try to kill us. So I do believe, like I said, it's kind of like, I like using this analogy because I think it's the ants have their own colonies and they have their own lives and they run around collecting food, taking it to the queen. They live incredible lives, and watching an ant colony is really, really cool. And it's really awesome how they operate. When you walk across an open field, do you try not to kill the ants that is under your foot? No. Most of the time, you don't even think about the ants that's under your foot. Like, why the fuck are you going to look at that, right? It's ants that don't matter, right? They just don't matter. And I kind of think that that's what the Titans view us as. Slightly more intelligent than a normal ape, but as far as they're concerned, basically just as insignificant. So for them, I don't think we rank high enough in terms of importance for them to have evil thoughts toward us. Like, I don't think they care enough. I unironically avoid ants and stuff on the road when I walk, but I guess I'm just weird. Well, it's not that I wouldn't go out of my way to go step on a bunch of ants, but also I never look. If I'm just walking along and I happen to walk over a bunch of ants, I wouldn't even know it, right? Because I don't focus on that. But obviously, I'm not going to, like, there's a bunch of ants, just walk across them and step on them. I wouldn't do that. We literally saved them from Argus. Barrels, and I'm sure they're very grateful, you know, in pretty much the same way that you would be if a dolphin saved your life from a shark attack. It doesn't mean that you think the dolphin is more intelligent or more important than what it actually is. It just means that that dolphin saved you when the shark attacked you, right? And that's probably what the Titans view it as. The monkeys helped, basically. But I thought that was the Horde. What was the Horde? The nature of order is to order things. That's not good for some people, though. No, obviously not. But that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make here. Evil is a perspective thing. It's from whose point of view. And that's the only way that you can really look at World of Warcraft and evil in World of Warcraft. Yeah, maybe now the Titans at least view us as decently intelligent. Still not intelligent enough to even consider us on their level, but decently intelligent. Kind of like a very intelligent crow or a very intelligent parrot. You know? Have you guys seen those videos of crows solving ridiculously fucking intricate puzzles? Like, they build these very, very interesting puzzles, and crows solve it in, like, fucking minutes, and they've figured out how to do it. It doesn't mean we look at the crow and we go, for an animal, quite intelligent, right? But we don't for a second think that they are intelligent. They're intelligent for an animal. Same with an octopus, right? An octopus is probably the second most intelligent being on the planet, right? Just after humans. But we don't look at the octopus, and say, wow, what an intelligent human. Or it's like a human. No, it's an animal, but for an animal, it is stupidly intelligent. Plus, I found out the other day, did you guys know that octopus, or octopuses, it's not octopi, it's octopuses, I think is actually the right way of saying that. I could be wrong, but I watched a video where someone actually said, it's not octopi, it's octopuses. Which sounds fucking wrong, by the way, but anyways. Did you guys know that they hold grudges? Did you guys know that? Like, they actually hold grudges. They can go. So there was an octopus that escaped from a lab. And it made its way 2 miles from the lab to the ocean. Right? 2 miles from the lab to the ocean. It didn't know where the ocean was, but it felt it. Obviously, we know that animals have a weird sense of direction. And then it came back a few days later. It came back to the place where it was, and I believe it trashed it did something. It either trashed the lab or it actually helped some of the other octopuses escape. I'm going to check now. Plural of octopus. Both octopuses and octopi are acceptable plurals of octopus. Of the two, octopuses is the simpler and more commonly used. How is octopuses simpler than octopi? I don't believe that it's simpler. Maybe it's more commonly used, although I've never heard anyone say octopuses, except for me saying it just now. But octopi is a lot easier than octopuses, no? That is amazing. Thinking about an octopus, planning that out. Holy shit. I know, right? Like, the octopus is ridiculously intelligent. Like, ridiculously intelligent. There's even, and this is genuinely one of the coolest fucking things ever. It's one of these, what was I can't remember the breed, or the species. But it's one of these octopuses that it collects shells, right? And so, or it will hide in shells. It doesn't collect shells, but it hides in shells if it gets into trouble, right? So it doesn't have the shell on its head all the time, but if it gets into trouble, it will find a rock or it will find a shell and it will just hide inside of it, right? That's how it operates. And so they were tracking this school of octopuses that were just basically migrating somewhere. And then what they noticed was that one of the octopuses that was sort of, it spent an obscene amount of time in this one area. And so they followed it around. And then they saw this octopus find a shell, grab the shell, and then made its way in a different direction from where the rest of them went. It went, say, this way, where the rest were going that way. And it took the shell because it knew that this stretch was open. There were no rocks or anything to hide under. So it literally took the shell so that if something tries to attack it, it can hide inside the shell. This means that this being was planning ahead. It knew that it was about to cross an area that was very dangerous and very open, and there wasn't a lot of place to hide. And so it took a shell with it to ensure that it would have a hiding place should something attack it. Do you have any idea how ridiculously intelligent that is, actually? Planning. Like, there's plenty of animals that's generally very intelligent in terms of mimicking what humans are doing or mimicking stuff, but planning? Now, obviously, it doesn't have quite our ability to plan, but outside of an octopus, I believe humans are the only species on the planet that has planning as part of its tool set. Other animals don't really plan. They act on instinct for the most part. They can open jars, dude. They are cool. Plus, no one can look at an octopus and say aliens are not real. Dude, just watch a video about an octopus and then tell me that that thing does not, like, it doesn't look like that thing comes from a different planet. That shit is not from Earth. They come from some other planet. Must be from another planet. Just came in to thank the person for the gifted sub I received earlier, and thank Echo for all the wonderful videos. Brian, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. It was Cerberus that gifted 60 subs. So, yeah, if you received the sub, say thank you to Cerberus for his absolute kindness. Servants confirmed. I mean, they are old gods. They taste good. I will take your word for it. I don't think I've ever had squid or octopus. Wait, no. Maybe I have. What's calamari? Is that octopus? Because I've had that before, and that's fucking lovely. Is calamari squid? Yeah, because that is delicious. Calamari is delicious. You ate Nizar's children, and it was delicious. It was very good. I will not complain about that. I like seafood. Seafood's good. Seafood's nice. Calamari is octopus. Yeah, so I have had octopus thing. I've also had this, I don't know what the hell that was, but it's these little things you can buy it at the fish and chip shop. They literally sell it as squids. And it's these little deep fried squids. Like this tiny. Like this big. You can see all the little legs and sort of the head, and it's deep fried, and you pop it like a chip. Very good. Very good. I don't know if it's baby squid or maybe artificial, but it tastes good. Squid testicles, maybe? Wait, would a squid testicle also have tentacles then? I wonder what would happen if N'Zoth landed on Earth instead of Azeroth. How would we deal with that crazy shit in real life? We'd probably just die. I think it's baby squids. That's my guess. I think it's baby squids. I can actually check. Hold up. I think the place is called Fisherways. I don't know if you guys heard, Amazon just opened in South Africa. Wow, this menu is fucking fast. Right. Here we are. This menu is ridiculously slow. Just FYI. Is it under sides? No, it won't be under sides, will it? Let me see. These are salads. Fuck that. What's this? Hake hot pot, veggie hot pot, seafood hot pot, hake hot pot, seafood hot. What the hell? Where is it? Oh my fuck. I think it's this. Here we go. I think it's this stuff. Here we go. Squiggly pops. It's this shit. It's called Squiggly Pops. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's good. It's really good, actually. Restaurant website and being super slow. Name a better combo. To be fair, though, most people in South Africa don't order from the restaurants directly. When you order from a restaurant, you don't order from the restaurant. You go on Mr. D or Mr. Delivery. Very unfortunate naming scheme, but they genuinely thought they're going to call their service Mr. D, short for Mr. Delivery. But all right, so either Mr. D or Uber Eats. One of the two. I don't know if there's another one. I think it's Mr. D and Uber Eats are the two that you can order from. Mr. Big D? No, just Mr. D. Yeah, don't ask. But yeah, very few people order from the restaurant. I don't even think these restaurants actually deliver. I think if you order from them, they'll just contact Mr. D, and then Mr. D will deliver it for you. Squid babies might sell fine. It's not like we are surprised if we eat meat that it's actual animals. Hey, I'm not complaining. Some people eat veal. That's also a baby cow or some shit. So why are you complaining about like eating babies? Blood Vixen, how you doing? It's so ridiculous how expensive Uber Eats is. True. Well, I don't know how expensive it is here. I think it's... Are you in South Africa, Chris? I haven't ordered food in months, so I have no idea what the prices are. Last time I ordered from them, it wasn't that expensive. It was like maybe $3 or some shit. Delivery fee. Mr. D is a bit better. Actually, no. Mr. D is about the same. I'm trying to see what I'm going to have to order. Or I'm going to have to go through an order to know what the delivery charge would be. Live in Seattle. It cost me over $60 for 2 sandwiches and 2 bags of chips from Panera Bread. Holy shit. Yeah, that sounds a little fucking ridiculous to me. Let me just... they have a 40% off right now on some shit. Just gonna do... I'm not gonna actually order something, but I just want to see what the delivery charge would be. Okay, let's see. Standard. No, delivery would be 6 rand. 50 cents. Less than 50 cents. Delivery would be... Hold up. $0.33. Delivery. That's what Uber Eats delivery would cost me. I don't know if they'll deliver for that. They did say I can deliver. I can order it. So they have a service fee as well. So with the service fee, it's 60 cents. If I include the service fee, which is 5 rand, it's 60 cents delivery. You earn more than most other countries, but the prices are way higher. That's probably why the prices are way higher, because you earn more than most other countries. Even Mexico has lower pay and much lower prices. Well, the thing is, remember, the market responds to what people are willing to pay, Aston. So if Americans are willing to pay $20 for delivery, why would I charge less? I charge 20 and people still order. If people stopped ordering as a result of the $20 delivery charge, they would drop their prices for delivery. That's just how it works. Although I will say most Uber drivers in South Africa, I think, complain. It costs them more than what they actually make. Use delivery. I don't do delivery either. That's why I had to check the prices. Personally, so this is where the story from Amazon comes from. The reason I don't order from Amazon, from anywhere really, is I don't like it. I don't know why, but I like going to the shop and ordering from the shop. Like, I want to see things. The same with drive-thrus. I almost never go through a drive-thru because when I get to a restaurant, like even a takeout, and I want something, I find it's better or more fun for me to go in and actually see the people, and I can see the menu, and I can talk to the lady or the guy that's standing there, and I can ask them about the food or whatever. I hate going through the drive-thru. I don't know why, but the drive-thru just feels awkward to me. It feels like I don't have as much time as what I want, because sometimes I don't know what I want. And then, you're sitting in your car and you feel rushed because there's people behind you. Whereas if you go in, you can stand and you can do it all, really good. I'm introverted unless I go gym. That's not what introvert means, Mystic Troll. Introverts are not afraid of public. It's not what introverts or introverted means. You have social anxiety, maybe, and a lot of introverts may suffer from social anxiety, but to be introverted simply means you don't like overstimulation. So you don't like too much shit going on around you. That's why introverts, for example, love hanging out and they love talking, but they like it one-on-one, right? So going for coffee with one person, great. As soon as it's a massive group, there's too much stimulation going on, and that drains them. They don't want overstimulation. Extroverts, on the other hand, love overstimulation. But funnily enough, you actually get extroverts that also suffer from social anxiety. So then they don't go out in massive groups, but then they keep themselves busy with lots and lots and lots of shit. So for example, I'm an extrovert, right? I don't have social anxiety, but I am an extrovert. How do I know this? I can't just play one video game. I can do maybe an hour on one video game, and then I have to stop playing the game, and then I watch a YouTube video, and then I stop the YouTube video, and then I watch a movie. Then I stop the movie, and I go back to another video game. So I jump from things because I need stimulation. I want a lot of things to stimulate me at the same time, otherwise I get bored. Introverts can literally sit and do one thing for hours and hours and hours and just be happy to do that one thing. Social anxiety is the thing that makes you not want to go out in public, right? But that's not an introvert-extrovert thing. That's just a social anxiety thing. And the way you get over social anxiety is to go be social, which sounds scary, but that's literally what it is. You have to challenge yourself and just go. And then you eventually realize, oh, it's not that bad. People are actually cool. Stimulation is definitely part of it, but not all of it. No, there's obviously more to it, but the way they know, for example, is there was a study done on babies where they put a baby inside a room filled with toys. And what they found was introverted babies will take one, catch, like they'll connect with one toy and then they'll play with that toy for hours. Extroverted babies would literally play with all the toys. When you walk in, the place a mess because they've picked up one thing, played with it, throw it away, next thing. So they're playing with everything. No, Matthew, because ADHD is a completely different thing, right? ADHD has more to do with attention. And extroverted people don't automatically suffer at paying attention to things, right? It's just that they get bored very quickly doing the same thing over and over again. So, for example, people that suffer from ADHD have incredible attention spans if it is things that they like. So you can have someone that has ADHD that can sit and play World of Warcraft for 12 hours. Hyper-focused, playing World of Warcraft, no issue. Then you ask them to do a math problem, 5 minutes later, they're off fucking wandering in the road or some shit. Because the math, their brains find it very hard to focus on, but the game, no problem. Right? So, again, extroverted people they don't struggle to pay attention, they just want to pay attention to a lot of things. Because they get bored with just the one thing. You can have autism, be introverted, and, well, yeah, you could have a lot of different fucking things be wrong with you at the same time, obviously. Cross, that's genuinely not what it actually is. So, the reason I know this isn't what it is because I get peeved as fuck when you get these people that make these TikTok videos saying when someone calls you but you're an introvert and then they don't want to pick up the phone. It's like, that's not what it is. Like, what the fuck? That's not what it is. Introverts are not afraid of other people. They're not afraid to hang out with other people. In fact, they are oftentimes more social than extroverts are. It's just that they don't like many people. Right? So if it's a group of one, great. If it's a group of 5, fuck no. I'm not going. It has a lot more to do with stimulation than what it has to do with socialization. Ladies and how you doing? I'm introverted as fuck. I'm an introvert, but I'm not a fan of being completely alone. I prefer small groups of people and can hang out, chat for hours. I know this because my brother is one as well. My brother is an introvert. He loves people. But as long as it's one, maybe two people, he loves it. When it's more than that, it's not that he's afraid because he doesn't suffer from social anxiety. So he will go out and he will hang out with 10 people. At the end of the night, though, I feel like fucking fire, right? Oh my shit, 10 people. I had so much fun talking to this guy and then this guy and then this guy. And that guy was picking his nose and that guy was wanking himself off. And those two people were eating each other out. It was a fucking blast, right? My brother goes home going, drained as shit, can't do anything. Because too many people drain introverts. Whereas one-on-one, they love hanging out because it's not as stimulating. They also tend to not like going to clubs. They don't like going to bars where it's too loud. If the music is too loud, that drains them because it's stimulating. They don't want stimulating lights, shit like that. Whereas extroverts like myself, it's go, bro. I'll go to a bar. I don't drink, but I'll go. I'm fine with up to 5 people, but more is over. No, I like many people. I like when there's lots and lots of people. I find it interesting. I find people interesting, right? So I can do many people and it's all good. I can handle a lot of people when there's alcohol involved. I think everyone can handle a lot of people when there's alcohol involved. Like, dude, oh my fuck. Be glad you guys didn't know me during my drinking days. Holy crap. Was I a different person? Completely different to what I am now. But I was pretty much all of my college, like my whole time at college, I don't think there was a single day that I wasn't drunk off my fucking head. Only first year. Sorry, no, yeah. In my first year, I didn't drink as much. And then about halfway through my first year, we started going out a lot. And from there, I was drunk every day. Every single fucking day. I would get home from class and we would instantly start drinking. On the way from class, we would stop at the bottle store, grab a case of beer, 2 liters of brandy, Coke, ice, home. And as soon as I got home, half the campus would be waiting at my house because I lived in this massive commune with like a bunch of other students. And I just, as soon as I moved in, I just took over. I was like, yeah, I'm the boss now. Let's go. Everyone was just partying to the point where I was asked to leave the commune because one of the girls that moved in about 8 months after me, yeah, she moved in because I moved there halfway through my first year. She moved in the next year at the start of the next year. She moved in because she just started studying. And then she phoned the landlord and she complained because we're keeping her from studying. And it was just like, motherfucker. But then I moved in with my friend, right? Because he had an apartment, or actually his dad owns like a shit ton of apartments. And so we moved in there and fuck me. So his dad owned like 4 apartments on the one floor. And all 4 people that live in those apartments were all students, and everyone drank. So we turned that entire place into a fucking party central. That was nuts, dude. All throughout my college years, just drinking the whole time. And then like hanging out in a crowd, more than 5 deep, getting more than 5 people to fit into a 4-door sedan is just too much of a headache. Blood mixer, I can see that. I can see that. Although the maximum, so I drove a Toyota Corolla in college, and it was a 5-door depends. Do you guys count the boot? Because in South Africa, we count the boot. Or the trunk. Do you guys count the trunk? Because they do in South Africa for some reason. So it's a 5-door sedan. Or it's a 3-door sedan. Or a 3-door hatchback. But okay, so in South Africa, they count the trunk. But a 4-door, so just the doors. 4-door. And my max that I ever fit into that car was 13 people. We went clubbing, and my friend and I drove everyone to the club. Then we got to the club, but then my friend met a girl, so he sneakily left the club with everyone in the fucking club and just me with a car. So 13 people in one fucking car. That was nuts. That was absolutely nuts. Hatchbacks are often mentioned as 5 doors. Wait, a hatchback can't be 5 doors. No, it can actually. Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah, because you do have 4 doors and then the hatchback. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Hatchback is a thing. A person can enter to sit, basically. Yeah, but technically speaking, someone can enter the trunk and sit down in the boot. Kirito Dragonborn, thank you so much for hanging out. Really appreciate you. Take care of yourself. Hatchback is odd number because the hatch is the door. Here, the boot is counted. I'm pretty sure. I'm not an expert on cars, just to be clear. I'm not an expert on cars. Trunks have lids. What do you mean? We call it a boot in South Africa. The back, the back part of the car is called a boot. I know there is a place, or there are places in the world where they call that a trunk. Is that America or is that England? I would assume America because we probably got boot from the British. Yeah, we probably got boot from you guys, Britgirl. Boot is the place where you put things into, storage space. Yeah, but boot is it's the boot of the car. Like the hood in the front? No, fuck that. The hood in the front? That's not... How can you call that a boot? So what do you call the back bit? You know, the place where you put your bags and shit. What do you call that? Same in Europe. It's the storage space. You have boot lid. Yeah, it's the boot, right? I would assume Europe would also call it a boot. Yeah, the bonnet is the front. That's true. The bonnet is the front. I was wondering what that name was, but yes, it's the bonnet. The hood and trunk are not doors, they're lids. The gray, I feel like I'm not fucking understanding the words that you're writing. So I'm gonna ask, right? Fuck the lid, fuck the door or whatever. You know the little compartment at the back where you put the shit in the back of the car, right? Not the asshole. We're not talking about your love life now. We're talking about the car, all right? What the fuck do you call that little back thingy in the US? Not the door. Not the lid or whatever the fuck. Trunk. There we go. You guys are wrong with that, by the way. It's the boot. Same. Bug bonnet is in the back. Boot is in the front because engine is in the back. Wait, is the new Volkswagen Bugs, the engine still in the back? I thought the engine would have moved to the front. No, it's not a boots. Boots do go on your feet. Right? But the boot is the back bit of the car. trunk. The lid would be what lifts. No, the old one. I don't know about the new one. Yeah, the old ones do. Don't feel bad. US has their own names for everything. They didn't know what pavement is, so they came up with sidewalk. There's a comedian that has a bit about that, but he actually says that it's not that they didn't know what a pavement was. It's that if they called it a pavement, Americans wouldn't know where to walk. And so they had to call it, yeah, it's Michael McIntyre, that's the one. So they had to call it sidewalk so that Americans know that it's on the fucking side. They shouldn't just be wandering down the freeway. They should, on the sidewalk. Get on the side. But to be fair, though, I think in South Africa, it's interchangeable. So, for example, actually, no, we do call it pavement here. But some of the younger folks, so the people that's been very much influenced by the US, they call it pavement now, or they call it sidewalk, but most people still call it pavement. It's because cars took over our living spaces, like horseback riding, so they know. True. Do you call it the street? Well, yeah. What do you mean, the street? It is a road or a street. Road or street equal, it's fine. Why? What do you call it? How do you differentiate between the driving surface and the walking surface? They don't look the same. The street is usually tarred. The pavement is cement. The street is the car. Yeah, but dude. You have the street, and then next to the street, you have the pavement. You walk on the pavement, you drive on the street or the road. Why the hell does the US have such a stronghold on the world? Why is our culture taking over? Ryan, it's quite simple. The US is the single largest country in the West, right? But it is also the most influential country in the world because of technology. Every single large technology in the world comes from the US. And so when you have social media, mostly populated by Americans, it's going to spill into the rest of the world. And then perhaps the biggest one would be Hollywood. Hollywood was probably the biggest reason why most of the world is moving towards. So, for example, in South Africa, as far as I understand it, it is now acceptable for students to write color, C-O-L-O-R, or they can write color, C-O-L-O-U-R. When I was in school, color, C-O-L-O-R, was wrong. You would lose points. You would either get wrong or lose points depending on the teacher. Nowadays, it's interchangeable. Again, because of American media. Because the Americans apparently it saves time when you don't write the U. You drive on the road. Street has a road. Road might not have a street. But it's a street. Pavement for walk areas? Were they using other surfaces for driving on? I don't know. So as someone from SA, how do you view the US and its culture? How do many others view it? I love the US. I love the US. I love the people. I think it's very difficult to ask the US and its culture. I think that's very difficult because the US no longer has just a single culture, right? And by that, I don't mean Mexicans or African Americans. I mean, parts of America has broken away from other parts of America. So if I think back to when I was younger, Americans were Americans, right? Every American would say America is the greatest country on earth. Most Americans believed in America. They believed in the American people. And while there were differences, I don't think they were nearly as large as they are today. So if you were to ask me, what I think about California, I would say I absolutely fucking hate the people from California. Not the individuals, but the broad sort of what you normally see people from California to be like. I absolutely can't stand that. And the thing that I can't stand fucking double that is whenever I hear these TikTok videos or these YouTube videos where it's like, as if like is just a filler word and you can use it for everything. Can't fucking stand that. I can't even listen to it. I would genuinely, I would break up with a girl if she spoke like that. I would just 100% go, nope, I can't do this. You are making things take twice as long to say because you have 400 likes in one sentence. I don't know why. It doesn't have to be there, right? So I can't stand that word. And I think California is just a bit fake for me. But then you ask me about sort of New York. I kind of like New Yorkers. I have quite a few. I have a couple of friends from New York. I like them. Not from New York City, but from New York State. Texans I love. Because I have quite a few people that I know from Texas as well, and they're really cool. I don't know anyone from Florida, I don't think. So I can't really say. I know one girl that lives in Alaska, also really cool. Oh, and I have 3 people that I know from Chicago, and they're also really cool. Accents fuck though, but they are cool. So I personally like Americans. I think partly also because the culture, or culturally, there's a lot of similarities between my culture and American culture just because of both cultures was born out of Europe, right? So it's sort of an amalgamation of Europeans and European settlers. So the cultures are very similar in many ways. So I see a lot of similarities. The only thing is the language, obviously. You guys stuck with English and we invented our own language. If you move here, it's still a culture shock. Move where, Britgall? You guys, we need to click for Aquilon's video. I hate that. The US. Oh, I imagine it would be. I imagine moving to the US would be a massive culture shock. Because I'm pretty sure there's... No, actually, I'm not even pretty sure. I know for a fact there's things that we don't do here that Americans would probably do. But I think I would still like to go to America. Probably not to stay, but just like a year. Especially depending on where you would move to. If I were to move to the US, it would probably be Texas. I would probably make my way to Texas. Would be having no real sauna. Yeah, I don't want to do national parks. Fuck that. I don't care about nature. I would go straight to Dallas. I would just go be a fucking cowboy in Dallas, 100%, no problems. I'm a cowboy, baby. I would buy myself some cowboy boots and a cowboy hat. I would just fucking roleplay cowboy in Dallas, Texas. Father slap in my face. How about Florida, man? Florida is a swamp. I don't like the swamp. I've seen the fucking alligators you guys have there. I'm good. I'm not going there. You don't need to be taller. American, how you doing, bro? Don't need to be taller for what? Some of the best shit in the US is nature, though. Nah, fam. I want to go to Texas. I want to go to Dallas. Maybe I'll go hunting if I ever go to the US. I would probably go hunting. I'd love to go hunting. Specifically boar hunting. That shit looks fun as shit. Cowboy boots give almost 2 inches, 5 centimeters. Yeah, but it's cowboy boots. And if you're in Texas, you gotta be rocking them cowboy boots. Everyone knows Texas is the fucking cowboy capital of the world. On a Fallout game set in Florida, Swamp Death Claws, yes please. Oh, that could actually be cool. Wanted to ask you about what do you think of the Titans individuals? Some of them might be more sinister than the others. Barrels. I don't like any of them, but I can't really speak to them that much. Because I genuinely just know the broad strokes of the Titans. I'm hoping we get more information about the Titans at some point, specifically their origin worlds. Because the thing that bothers me about the Titans is their powers. The powers that the Titans have make no fucking sense. Like, why do some of them have power over light? Why? Some of them have life powers, again, for no reason. So, yeah, there's like... I would say that's probably the thing that bothers me most about the Titans. What's Halloween culture capital of the world? Log Cabin in the Rockies? Oh, shit, Blood Vixen. Now you're talking my language, though. If I were to live in the US, I would find a place that has super fast fiber in a rural area, but then I want a cabin in the woods where it snows all the fucking time. But not too far away from the city. Like, basically driving distance from the city. But still, I want snow most of the time. Cowboys, you want Montana. Montana. I don't know where that is. But yeah, if I could live anywhere in the world, it would most likely be a place that has snow 365 days a year. Define driving distance. No, we'll drive 3 hours for good food. Oh, TJ, you're talking to a South African here, bro. We do not. We may have a lot of influence from the British, but the one thing that our European forefathers did not rub off to us is walking friendly cities. We drive everywhere as well. And generally speaking, I will start to complain if it's like 4 hours away. So if I have to drive just an hour to get somewhere, that's close as shit. That's fine. But if it's like 4 hours, I'll probably be like, that's fucking rough. I'm not gonna do that in a day. Like, if I'm gonna stay over 4 hours, right? I mean, people in South Africa will drive literally to work. From Polokwane to Pretoria, that's a 2.5 hour drive, and they'll just go through for the day because they have a couple of meetings in Pretoria. Just nip through, go do some work there, and then come back the evening. Not that bad. Holy, I don't usually look at transmogs, so I don't think I've seen it. Is it one of the newest posts? Here we go. Ooh. Oh shit. That be some Shiva arms or some shit? Dude, this looks amazing. What's the animation on the arms, though? I don't like the veil. That shit, like, why do warlocks have a wedding veil on? I don't like that. But I do absolutely love the arms. I'd probably change out the head. Yeah, I'd most likely change out the head. Plus, why is it not robes? Yeah, I want the robes. This. Not this. Fuck, man. This is going to be a rough one. Because this looks like I'm wearing a boob tube. I don't want this. So what I would do is I would use a different shirt. One that doesn't show off my midriff and my fucking cleavage. I want a different shirt. The dress bit is fine at the bottom. And then the shoulders is really cool. But that veil can go suck a dick. No, I don't do on casters. I hate pants on casters. Pants really good on paladins, really good on warriors, not for warlocks. Well, here's the female version of it. It looks good on the female characters, but I don't play female characters, so that's of literally zero consequence to me. But it does look really cool on female. Actually, the pants on a female character looks really cool. I don't know about the Demon Hunter set. I don't know if there is one yet. Yeah, not that I can see. Maybe it'll still come out, or maybe it's already out. I have no idea. Ugh, I have no idea. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go. I have not eaten anything yet today. I'm going to go make some food. I have ribeye steak tonight, and I am so excited for that shit. So excited for that shit. Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode of Barrens Chat. As always, be good to each other. Be kind to each other. And I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.